Hello, and welcome to My Existential Crisis, the podcast where we talk about all the things that make us question our entire sense of self. My name is Madison Epley, and this week, Hailey is taking a little bit of a break. She is taking a mental health break, which, as if you've been listening to this, you know that we are fans of. So send her some love. She is all right. She just needs to, not have to worry about one more thing to do. But I have a new co-host, so if you want to introduce yourself, Jarod?
Sure. Hello, my name is Jarod. I heard from Madison about this opportunity. I thought it was really cool. I've never really been too much into true crime, but I definitely enjoy like spooky things and just all of that kind of paranormal, ghostly stuff in general. So I thought it'd be really cool to jump on board with this and share my 2 cents. Madison and I went to the same high school, same college, so we've known each other for a good while. Small town, that's right, yeah. So yeah, I mean, it's definitely a shared interest, I think, with a lot of this stuff. We both did a lot of theater. Music theory killed me whenever we both took it. It was just the most infuriating thing.
No, me too. I was so angry. Like everybody else understood it and I didn't, and I didn't know what I was missing.
That was my existential crisis for a good couple of weeks for sure. But yeah, I've been doing theater pretty much my whole life, save for the past couple of years. Definitely into the theatrics of it a lot. I enjoy performing. I miss it a lot. I haven't performed in a while, but hopefully looking to get back into it with some voiceover stuff now that my microphone is working. Thought this could be a good avenue to get back into that. And yeah, that's pretty much it about me, I guess.
Guys, I'm so excited. I love Jarod. I miss Jarod.
Me too.
I haven't seen or heard from him in so long, and he's one of my favorite people. So I'm so excited that he said yes to this.
Yeah, me too. I'm excited. Yeah.
So how is your week, Jarod? What are you up to? Anything new or interesting in your life?
Well, I'm married and I have a beautiful baby boy and a beautiful wife.
Jarod, you're married?
Yeah.
Ah! I didn't know that!
Oh, I thought you knew. I'm sorry.
I didn't know you were married!
Yeah.
Oh my
it happened kind of fast, but
that's amazing!
Yeah, that's a thing.
Oh my gosh! That's so exciting. Sorry.
You're okay. But yeah, that's pretty much been what's been going on for the past year and a half.
How old is Levi now?
Levi will be 9 months in May.
Oh my goodness, he's so cute.
He's getting chunky.
So he is chunky. He has like the chunkiest little cheeks. I love him so much.
Yeah, he's just like, I don't know. He's so feisty and makes like these screaming noises a lot, like these pterodactyl like noises, and it's just like the cutest thing in the world. But I'm also like, what are you trying to say, man? Like, I don't know how to help you. But he's great.
Yay, that's amazing. That's so awesome. Yeah. I'm so glad that you're doing well, and I'm so glad that I got to talk to you.
Yeah, me too. How have you been? What's been going on with you? I feel like I heard the last 2 episodes. I just haven't really gotten to much.
You're good. I was in Tech Week, so I'm now in the middle of my show. It hasn't been my most favorite show experience, but I've met a lot of really awesome people, and I'm having fun now, so that's exciting.
I feel like that's all you can ask for.
Yeah, exactly. So like it's good now, and I'm just like anxiously awaiting everybody else to like start posting auditions for their seasons, but I'm doing well. David and I are going to Italy this summer, so
oh wow,
yeah, we're kind of just like
that should be fun.
Yeah, his family is from Italy, so like they have
that's right.
an Italian. They have an apartment over there that their family shares, and his parents are actually spending like multiple months over in Italy this summer. So it sounds more bougie than it is. Gotcha. I promise it's really not. Like they're just like bumming off of his parents and staying with family. They just happened to be
That should
in
still
Italy.
be cool, though.
Yeah, it'll be really fun. Fun fact, Jarod was there on my first date with David.
That's right.
Yeah.
Was that at Munir's?
No,
or was that
that
somewhere
was
else?
at
I can't...
Starbucks. You were studying.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
I remember that.
Yeah, David and
I think I was working on my capstone or something.
I think you
like
were
that.
too. You had your laptop pulled up. But yeah, so
Yeah.
Jarod was there, full circle. You know, it's great.
That's right. It all comes back.
Yep.
And now we're here.
And now we're here.
Yeah, I will definitely start getting into it, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm nervous, if you can't
Don't
tell.
be
I'm very
nervous.
nervous. I've never done a podcast
It's okay.
before. Okay. So, my topic that I chose to discuss for this week is called the Uncanny Valley. Have you ever heard of it before?
You know, I have not heard of this before at all.
Okay. So, like I said before, it's not too much of like a true crime. Like, I couldn't find anything like illegal relating to it or any
That's
like bad
okay.
things that happen because of it. But to me, it's just like it's a personal interest
Yeah,
and
it
it
doesn't
really
need to be
intrigues me
true
'cause-
crime, so you're all good.
Yeah, perfect. Because I've always been like really freaked out by everything that they talk about in this.
Okay.
Like any kind of horror movies or anything like that never really gets to me too much. But all of the subject matter that they touch on in this is just like it gets under my skin and
Okay.
it just makes me want to throw up.
Oh
It's
my
awful,
gosh.
but-
Okay.
Yeah, it's bad. But so anyway, the concept was first coined by a Japanese roboticist professor named Masahiro Mori. He taught at the Tokyo Institute of Technology, and basically he describes the uncanny valley as how robots appear more human-like, they become more appealing, but only up to a certain point. After that certain point, it becomes eerie, unsettling, repulsive, scary, like whatever attribute you want to call it. And sometimes the uncanny valley is described as the existential fear of being replaced by robots or artificial intelligence. There's so many movies and TV shows about this kind of topic of just like robots taking over the planet and replacing the human race and all that kind of stuff. So it all stems from this like existential fear of the uncanny valley. So as he's like creating these robots, he describes his experience upon shaking one of the first like prosthetic hands that they make, like with the rubber over top of it, or I guess the silicone.
Oh yeah.
And like all the components underneath of it. So the appearance of the hand, obviously it looks like a human's with like, you know, the skin, fingernails, little hairs and all that gross stuff. But upon shaking it, it's obviously cold,
Yeah.
it's limp, it's boneless. It just doesn't feel natural. And that's when that unease sets in, as if something that's seemingly human just becomes less so after interacting with it,
Gotcha.
reaching the aforementioned uncanny valley. So I also thought it kind of related back to something.
Why did they name it that? The Uncanny Valley.
I do not know, but I think it's just like the appearance of it is like what someone would describe as uncanny.
Okay.
Because you look at something like a robot and you're like, wow, that looks so real, like it could pass as a human. But then as you like get closer to it, you start feeling it and all that kind of stuff. You perceive that it's not what it is pretending to be.
Yeah.
Then the actual like visualization of it is like, oh, that's like uncanny, I guess. I don't know. But it's the fact that it's deceiving whatever it's trying to pass itself off
Gotcha.
as. And I kind of described it to, you've been to the Heritage Discovery Center in Johnstown, right?
No, I haven't.
Oh, okay. Well, perfect. So it's close. I guess it's in Cambria City. It's like that big brown building.
Yeah.
It's got like
I know what it
Discovery
looks like. I've
Center
just
on
never
it.
been in. I honestly didn't know what it was until like a couple years ago. And then
It's a nightmare is what it is.
oh no.
It's
What the hell?
they would always take us there for like field
Who's
trips and
they?
stuff
Like
like
the
that because it
school?
was
But what was in there? I say I know what it is. I know it's like a museum, but that's really it. I don't know what it's a museum of or like
Kind of.
about.
Yeah, so I guess it kind of goes into like the history of the floods and everything like that, and all of the Eastern European immigrants and like their stories and how they came to Johnstown. So it's kind of like the Flood Museum, but
Basically,
just
like
kind of
just the
more so
origins
focused.
of the town.
Yeah, the origins of the town,
Okay.
origins of like the inhabitants and stuff like
I had
that.
no idea.
Well, it's cool, but it's also like it gives off like a vibe, you know. It's not the brightest place.
Okay.
But basically, so there's like a tour that's inside of the Discovery Center. And in this tour, there's 8 characters that you can kind of not play as, but you can like follow along with their story.
Okay, that's cool.
And one of these 8 immigrant characters is an 8-year-old Polish boy named Joseph. And anytime that we had gone to the Heritage Center, I'd always pick Joseph because I was like, I'm young, I'm Polish, I'm a boy. That's me. I identify as that person. So I'm like,
Makes
I'm gonna
sense.
pick Joseph. Yeah. And in one of the scenes in this room, because they have like mine carts, because there's an old coal mine in Johnstown, closer to Wimber, and there's the scene where they're in this mine shaft, and overturned is one of the mine carts, and it crushed Joseph.
Oh my
So really
gosh.
sad. Yeah, because I think they had like children working in the
Oh my
mines
gosh. Wait, how
at
old
that
were
point.
you when you were going here?
When I went through.
Yes.
Probably around the same age as
Holy
he was.
shit. That's so crazy.
Yeah, I didn't understand it at the
Well,
time.
of course
'Cause I,
you
like,
wouldn't. You wouldn't think, hey,
Yeah.
a kid my age is dying in a mine. That's kind of fucked.
I'll have to go back and see if it's still there.
Oh
But
my gosh.
anyway, yeah, so it was just like, it was so weird because you could see underneath the minecart, there was like this prosthetic hand reaching out from
Oh
underneath
my
the rubble,
gosh.
meant to represent like Joseph's hand. And it had like bruises and scrapes and it was bloody and everything like that. It was just like terrifying.
Oh my gosh. What the fuck?
So it was very
Like, I-
traumatizing
Yeah.
as a child just to see that and like,
Shit. Oh my gosh.
because he was so young, like he was obviously shouldn't have been in the mines. He might not have been working in them. I think he might have been like playing or something in the mines. Like he got
Either way,
lost or
there's
something.
a child in a mine who is
Yeah.
crushed. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, he did not make it,
Oh
unfortunately.
my gosh.
But I remember like it was close enough to like the railing where they cut everything off from the
Yeah.
actual like tour path where you could like reach in and like touch the hand.
Oh my gosh.
And like it was so unsettling.
touch
That's
it?
like whenever I started, I did.
Oh my gosh.
And that's like a big part of why, like when I started researching this and I saw it was mostly about robots and I saw like the prosthetic hand and I was like, that would be a great segue.
That's
'cause
Yosef.
that's like yeah, that's Yosef. Yeah, he did not last
Oh
long.
my gosh.
But that was like one of my earliest memories of something similar to the Uncanny
That's so
Valley and just
upsetting.
being like exposed to it. It was probably a little bit upsetting. I just remember it being kind of cool, but now that I look at it, I'm like, God, that is fucked up, man. Like that.
Oh my god.
Oh my God. I don't know if I could have the same experience if I went back. But
No, probably not.
yeah. And then just some like other earlier childhood memories of like I like distinctly remember these like dark silhouettes that I would see as a kid. Obviously it was just my eyes playing tricks on me, but they always appeared like human.
Yes.
But just something about them seemed off and I was like, oh, it's my mom or my dad coming to check on me or
Yes.
something. But they moved like unnaturally quick and like creepy. And I like those things stuck in my mind as a kid. Like I still remember vividly those kinds of things, like what I saw as a kid. And I was like, they looked human, but just something was not right about them.
I feel
So,
so
some of the
seen,
other-
Jared. Like, I just have to talk. Did you listen to the last
I'm
one? I think I
glad.
talked about my fear of mannequins in the last one. Did you listen to that one?
Yeah, that's part of it too. I was like, she'll probably like this because mannequins definitely do fall into that. And I share that fear because mannequins freak me the fuck out.
Me
and I
too.
can't-
I don't know how everyone became like interested in what I'm afraid of, but like at the show that I'm in, like we have those like mannequin heads that you put wigs on. And like they
yeah,
freak me the
no.
fuck out, and like someone was like messing with me with them. I'm like, ha ha ha, it's so funny, but like it's
Just like get it away from me.
yes, like it's so freaky.
Yeah. No, I definitely. So I'm fine with mannequins that have like kind of like the blank ones that don't have any like eyes or
see, those
noses
are
or
the ones
anything
that
like that.
get
They're
me.
just like,
I don't know why.
oh, you don't like those?
No, even those ones. It's like it's almost something, and
Just
like
any and all mannequins.
yeah, it's just I can't.
Gotcha. The ones that you were describing, like the wigged ones with like the facial expressions and everything, I can't. Like those ones freak me out. But yeah, mannequins, that's a big example. Robots was like the first thing because that's like whenever it was first coined. Have you seen Sophia?
No.
That one robot that's like a bald lady, but you can see like the circuitry in her head.
Oh, yeah, I think I have actually.
There was like an interview with Will Smith, and he's like asking her questions and stuff. She's like one of the more famous ones, but there's another one called Geminoid HI, which to me, like whenever I was doing my research on it, was like it looked the most like a normal person. I was like, I could not distinguish because the creator used some of his own hair to add it to the robot's scalp.
Oh, no.
Yeah, and I was like, that's really gross, but also props to you, I guess, for making up a pretty good replica.
They do those with like baby dolls. Did you know that?
They use real hair?
So, okay, yes. So whenever I was too old to be playing with baby, quote unquote too old. I was probably like 10, and I was out of my baby doll phase, but for some reason my mom got me this like real life baby doll, and it was really cool. Super cool. But it had real hair, and it had real hair that was on their eyelashes. And it was painted to be so lifelike, and it freaked me the fuck out. And apparently, like that's people make like these lifelike baby dolls that like it felt real, like it's like the full weight of a newborn baby. It was oh
my. Yeah, I can't. Like just hearing that. Like so that's the uncanny valley. You've been experiencing it and you didn't even know it. Yeah, it's a real thing. Real hair. God,
yeah.
Okay. I knew they do that with like horse hair and stuff and like
it was real human
violin
hair.
bows, but
I don't know why. I don't understand it.
It's upsetting.
It is upsetting.
Dolls was my next thing. So like
perfect.
the Annabelle doll, like that famous Annabelle doll from the Conjuring movies. Yeah, that one. Honestly, it looks like they used real hair for that one
too.
They
probably did. It's probably
That doll is just like not even. It's just unnatural looking. Animatronics. Chuck E.
Not a fan of
Cheese,
those
all
either.
that kind of stuff.
No, can't do them.
No, can't do it. Wax figures in the Hall of Presidents, that kind of stuff. They look pretty close to like what the robots, like some of the robots that they make.
Yeah.
But then also kind of along the same lines as like physical things that look human is artificial intelligence. Like you have Siri, you have some newer things like ChatGPT, and then you have one of the newer things that I just noticed was My AI on Snapchat.
Yes.
Where you can talk to it and it sounds like a real person
oh my gosh,
for the most part. And it has like prompts written into it and everything like that. So that's kind of along the same lines as the Uncanny Valley. I can see there being a lot of issues with that in the future.
Oh yeah, it's huge right now.
Yeah. I saw it pop up and I was like, I am not gonna touch that thing. I don't trust it
I did
at
too.
all.
Like it was like, hi, I'm like this AI. Like feel free to test me out. I'm like, fuck no. Like absolutely not.
Get away from me.
I'm not testing you out.
Can't do it. And then, so I mentioned before with like media representation, movies like I, Robot, Megan was a new one that came out with that weird doll girl. Yes. Did you see it?
I didn't see it. I was too afraid to, but I saw all of the trailers for it. The way that it moved. Oh my gosh.
I saw it dancing. And I was like, okay, this is either like a scary movie or it's just like a meme movie.
Yeah, like I wanted to laugh at it, but I was also like very unsettled.
And then Skinamarink also. I kind of included that. Have you seen it?
That? No. I've heard about it though, but I haven't seen it.
Out of all, so it's very experimental, but out of all the like horror movies that I've seen, that one like shook me to my core.
I need to watch
it was
that.
very, it's kind of like slow burn in like the slowest sort of sense where nothing really happens outright.
Okay.
But it's just the way that it's shot and like the sounds and everything. It's good. I recommend it, but it's scary.
Yeah, I would like that. I'm sure I would hate it, but like I would also like it in a weird, twisted way.
Yeah, I hated it, but it was really good.
Yeah.
Like I just could not look away. It was like watching a train wreck,
Yeah,
essentially.
I gotcha.
It got me. It got me good. And then analog horror. That's one of the last examples that I'll touch on. So there's a lot of really creative stuff that people put out on YouTube. Probably one thing in particular that I think that you would really not like is it's called the hand thing. So it's basically these HAND hand thing.
I don't know why I heard not that. Okay, cool.
That's okay. So it's these two guys dressed up in they look like mannequins, but they're obviously
no.
human.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Nope.
I didn't think I wouldn't watch it. Watch it in broad daylight if you can, or not at all. But
fuck.
That video stuck with me at the most. Just like it's weird because it doesn't make sense in what they're saying or doing, but it's just like the unnatural, like twitchy ass movement that it's.
I didn't even see the movement. I just saw that thing and I wanted to die.
Oh, you looked it up? Yeah, it's awful.
I don't want that.
Don't watch it. I'm sorry for even mentioning that, but it's not even that long. It's the most like unnatural thing I've seen, but that I would classify as like uncanny valley too, because it's like human but not. Like
suffer through it. I just like it looks like something like Skinamarink. Like it's a train wreck, and I need to watch it, but like I don't like it.
Yeah, but there's a bunch of that kind of stuff on YouTube that people make just to like make people like me just sick and uncomfortable.
I hate it so much.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I didn't know that was the name for it, and I feel incredibly vindicated and seen.
Well, I'm glad that we can put a name to it now, so you know what's going on. Because, it messes with me.
No, not a fan. No, thank you.
Now, the other thing that I had looked at was potential causes for the uncanny valley. Like, why do we experience it? Because it's primarily more of like a human thing. They haven't really discovered the same kind of reaction in other primates. I know some like other domesticated animals like dogs and cats can get freaked out by like a stuffed animal that looks like them. But for the most part, it's a primarily human experience. So one of the last things that I'm going to touch on is the evolutionary side of it, because part of it suggests that something in the human history made us evolve to be afraid of things that look like us and act like us.
That makes sense.
And I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah.
Like a predator or a rival tribe or something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
But the first thing that they talk about in this study, and I'll just read from it, is the neurological component. Let me get the article pulled up because it's pretty interesting. Damn it, I had it right here. Yeah, so this is kind of the area that has the most amount of research on it. This guy named Fabian Grabenhorst was a researcher in cognitive psychology. They investigated like the neurological aspect of the uncanny valley from a 2019 study. So coming from, rather than from like robotics or like other psychologists' angle, you can imagine that it's like a neuron in a particular part of the brain that responds more strongly to responds more strongly to how a more human-like social partner appears to be. And then like that's one of the points that they can start computing like how the uncanny valley starts appearing. So in this study, they got 21 individuals and they started measuring their fMRI, like their functional magnetic resonance imaging responses, as a way to measure changes in the blood flow in their brain. So whenever they started showing these things. During the first tests, participants were shown images including humans and a host of different kinds of robots, all depicting different levels of human likeness. The second test asked which of these robots you would trust to select a personal gift from. So participants gravitated towards humans, obviously, and then the more human-like robots, they would also respond positively to. However, the exception was those closest to the boundary of like human and non-human,
like right on
where
the
you can
border.
start picking up on it.
Yeah, that's interesting.
So where that where that valley like dips down, they did not feel comfortable with them at all. So they started measuring their brain activity during that task, and they could determine that the activity was in areas to do with processing, evaluating social cues, and facial expressions. So those are some of the things that are the hardest for robots to mimic. Obviously, picking up on normal social cues, like human facial expressions. Like, it's hard for a robot to perfectly depict those. So if people start looking at these robots and notice something like they're not giving me the right reaction to what I'm saying, they're not responding the right way to if I ask a question, then that's when that discomfort starts to set in. So along the midline of the frontal lobe, there's another part of the brain known as the medial prefrontal cortex. So previous research has shown that this region contains a valuation system that judges stimuli. So it's been shown to signal the reward value of everything from milkshakes to like pleasant touch or anything like that. So the rest of the study, basically, they're just measuring these two different parts of the brain, one for attention and senses, and the other for that social stimuli and everything like that, like the positive reward value. So they found that both of those were important for like whenever they saw things dipping into that valley, and they converted that like human likeness signal into a human detection signal. So with that region like overemphasizing the boundary between the human and non-human, they saw that they were reacting more positively to humans and less to artificial figures. I guess, which is just a fancy way of saying, if I can tell that I'm talking to a human, it makes me happy.
Yes.
If I'm talking to a robot or some other freak of nature that doesn't make any sense, I'm going to run away and throw up and be really upset.
Throw up.
Yeah, it just makes me sick. But another one of the explanations, aside from neurological, is psychological, all the way back in 1919 with our good friend Sigmund Freud.
Oh, Freud. Don't really. He's a guy. He's something.
Yeah, he's quite a character. Yes. But it has nothing to do with having dreams about your mother or anything like that, which is good. So he wrote an article which basically refers to that strange emotion that humans would get when they perceive certain objects. So he wasn't referring to robots at the time, obviously, but he mentioned dolls, wax figures, the same kind of sensation we get today when we look at those kind of things, that kind of discomfort. So even all the way back before it actually had a name, people were still having these reactions to human-like objects.
That's crazy.
Which, I thought it was really interesting. And evolutionary I'll touch on last, because there's a whole other thing that they go into. And then the last thing that kind of connects, like the last theory that connects with the uncanny valley is cognitive. And that was kind of what I started with, is that fear of being replaced by robots. Pairs with another idea that when we see a robot that looks just like us but isn't human, it causes a violation of our expectations.
Yes.
And just violated. The norms of what humans... Yeah, honestly, it's like people see robots and they're like, I have a very specific image of what that's supposed to look like.
Yes.
People see humans, have a very specific image of what that's supposed to look like. And when you mesh the two, it's just like, it's a violation.
Do not like that.
It's bad. Mm-hmm. Don't do that. Get it away from me. Stop making it. And then it kind of feeds into like prediction error, where robots will elicit like an error in our predictions of what a human should be, which also leads into that uncanny valley, like uneasy sensation. Oh, okay. So that's a lot, but
You're good.
The last thing I wanted to cover was that evolutionary idea. And there's a very short but pretty good paper that I found written by Mahdi Muhammad Musa, titled Danger Avoidance, an evolutionary explanation of the uncanny valley. And I'm not going to go through all of it, but basically he kind of categorized different thought-provoking negative emotions. upon like what kinds of things a normal human would see. Hopefully not on an everyday basis, but something that, you would see, get kind of a twinge of discomfort, and then something that's just so far off the scale of like normal everyday occurrences that just makes you shrink inside. So the first thing is a dead insect. So not something we really think about too much. A lot of people kill insects like mosquitoes or cockroaches without having that feeling of regret. So it's just, you see a fly on the wall, you kill it. It's nothing. The second thing is a decomposing insect body.
Yeah.
So maybe something else killed the insect and you see it kind of just like shriveled up on the ground. You're like, well, I'm going to keep away from that. Not really sure what happened to it, but I'm just going to, walk the other way. The third thing is a dead small animal. So like chipmunk, squirrel, rabbit, something you would see on the side of the road. It's a little sad. I mean, you see it, you just drive by or go to the other side of the street because it smells or something like that. And then the fourth thing is a decomposing small animal. Yeah. So there's a pattern here. So not as pleasant. Definitely has a smell at that point. You just want to stay away from it. It could have disease or flies or bugs or whatever. You don't really want to be close to it. The fifth thing is a dead large animal. So these are like deers or I don't know why I thought moose, but
if you're
a dead moose if you ever come across. Yeah, if you live where mooses are just,
about
dropping like flies. That's a large animal. It's definitely a little bit more shocking. Like whenever you see a dead deer, you're like, oh gosh, they got messed up. I don't want to hit that. And then number 6 is a decomposing large animal. So a deer that's been on the side of the road for weeks. No one's came by to shovel it off into the trees or anything like that. It just looks grotesque. And normally you see it when you're driving, so the thought kind of immediately goes away once it's out of sight. But say if you're like walking down a trail and you see that, you start thinking, okay, something killed this deer, right? Something dangerous came after it. I should probably turn back around. Number 7 is a human corpse. Yeah. So most people, as outside of normal situations where you would see one, whether it's a morgue or a funeral or a cadaver, something like that, not really going to see too many of those.
Hopefully, at least.
But like I mentioned, hopefully, right? But if you're at a funeral, you kind of have a good idea of the reason behind why that person died. And you kind of have some closure on that. They're dressed nicely, they've been taken care of, they've been embalmed or whatever, they look clean. Number 8 is a decomposing or freshly dead mutilated corpse.
Holy fuck.
Definitely not something you would see on a daily basis. No. At least I would hope not. And that's kind of where this fear response starts to really kick in. So with everything else that we've seen up until this point, dead insects, dead animals, people feel pretty comfortable. I mean, not super comfortable, but they don't feel in danger. If someone were to see a freshly dead, mutilated corpse just on the side of the road while they're taking a walk, immediately those alarms start ringing, right? Something happened, someone was attacked and killed, like I am not safe right now. And then the last one is a freshly dead, mutilated corpse with sudden movements.
Oh no, not at all. What the fuck does that mean? So, I don't like that at all.
I read this and I saw it and I was like, this person just kind of was watching a bunch of like Saw and like Hacksaw movies and like Texas Chainsaw Massacre. They just had this on the brain because that's definitely out of left field on that.
Oh my gosh.
But people would probably start panicking if they saw that.
Oh yeah.
Right? So I'm not safe. I need to get the hell out of here. Clearly suggestive of a mechanism of danger avoidance. So the idea being each one of these things increases like that level of danger avoidance as you see something more and more unsettling. So they kind of related this to the uncanny valley, where the reason that we feel unsafe and unsettled by things that look like us is almost within a realm of impossibility. Like, how can something that's not human look like me? Which ties back into the evolutionary theory that something in humans' ancient past was around the same time as us that was either a predator or a threat or a rival gang or something like that, which caused our brains to like implant on that or imprint and start making us more aware of it so that we avoid it in the future, so that we can keep ourselves safe.
That's fascinating.
But
it makes a lot of sense, though.
It does. And I never looked into it this much. I was just always uncomfortable by it. But now that I see all of the research on it and notice these things that make me uncomfortable, I'm like, yeah, that probably isn't safe. I want to stay alive, and I don't want my body to be mutilated and killed. So I'm going to walk to the other side of the road.
Do you think zombies could fit into this category because they're like us, but not like us? Like the fascination with like zombies, or at least like that time frame.
I think definitely, yeah. I think it does fall into that number 9, like a freshly dead, mutilated corpse with sudden movements. That was the first thing I thought, besides like a piece of like an arm twitching out of nowhere. Like zombie was the next thing that I thought of. Yeah, I guess it could. It could definitely fall in that, because normally it's like, once you see a corpse, you're like, that thing should stay dead.
It should not be moving.
It's not going to come back and attack me. But I think zombies definitely fit in that 9th level of danger avoidance. Ooh. It's on, I didn't even notice till now. It's on the graph that he uses. Yeah. It's at the very bottom of the uncanny valley. So like at the top is a healthy person, normal. And then you have things like surrounding it on the left and right. You have robots, stuffed animal, prosthetic hand, corpse. At the very bottom is zombie. Fun times. So you hit the nail on the head with that.
Cool.
But yeah, that's the uncanny valley. That's why you're afraid of mannequins.
Yay! Thank you so much, Jarod. That was awesome. I love all the the background stuff and everything too. That was super great. Thank you for making me feel justified in being afraid of these things.
I'm sorry if that didn't help at all, but
no, it did. It made me
at least you have a name for it.
More, comfortable with my fear, and that I'm not embarrassed that I'm afraid of these things.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
That's all good.
Okay, so for my story, it's either like good news for you or bad news for you. But it's one that I've wanted to cover for a long time. And it's one that has haunted me since I first heard about it. And it's a little long because I did a lot of research. So that's either a good thing or a bad thing. But yeah. Have you ever been on a cruise, Jarod?
I have.
You have? Actually, really?
Yes. When I was very little. I think I was in kindergarten.
Where did you go?
We went to... I think the cruise line itself was called like Key West or something like that.
Okay.
So it shipped off from Florida, and then we went around like Mexico and some of the islands around there. I don't remember too much about it. I remember I was really young, so our parents wanted to keep us like not out of the way, but they needed daycare and babysitters essentially, so they could go off and drink and have fun.
That makes sense.
But yeah, it was fun.
Okay. I've always wanted to go on one because I've heard about how inexpensive they are for like all that you get out of them. Like they're all inclusive, right?
Yeah.
Pretty
sure.
So I've always heard that like they're super cheap for everything that you get, and like it just seems like a good time. I get seasick, but I deal with that.
Yeah.
Well, this story made me never want to go on a cruise again. So we're going to get into that. This is the disappearance of Amy Bradley. So Amy Bradley was born on May 12th, 1974, and she lived in Chesterfield County, Virginia. And she was a recent graduate of Longwood University. She had a degree in physical education and attended on a basketball scholarship. She was very athletic. She was a very bright student. And all her life, she'd been noted as being like a super strong swimmer in addition to being a super great basketball player. She was even working as a lifeguard before. She had her whole life ahead of her. She even had a job lined up right after school. She was going to start a job at a computer consulting firm, and this was in 1998. So like at the very, very beginning of computers and everything. So she was getting into like a brand new field. Despite her strong swimming skills, Amy was terrified of the open ocean, but her family really wanted to celebrate Amy's graduation from college and basically just to like take one last trip together as a family. You know, Amy was going to be, she is an adult, but she was going to be living her own life, and she had a brother who would be soon living his own life, and this could really be the last chance for all of them to just like be together as a family without like spouses or future partners or their own families someday. So they just wanted to take that moment for themselves. And Amy was really hesitant at first, and it took a lot of persuading by her family, but she finally decided to go along with them on vacation. So they boarded the Royal Caribbean International cruise ship, Rhapsody of the Seas, and they were en route to Curacao on March 21st, 1998. And again, despite her being afraid of the open ocean, Amy was able to set her worries aside and just like have fun with her brother Brad and just have fun with her family and just live it up for the time that she had there. As a brief side note, in general, one of the things that struck me early on from this one to begin with is Amy didn't want to go, and it seemed to be like a little bit deeper than just her fear of the open ocean. She had to like really be persuaded to go. And even if it wasn't anything deeper than just that, like did something in her gut tell her that it wasn't a good idea? How could she know that something bad would happen to her? She wouldn't, but like I always think about this, and I always think about it like why important that we don't want to live our lives in fear, but I think that we should definitely listen to our gut instincts because they're there for a reason.
It's good to be cautious.
Exactly. And I think that, I don't know if this is one of those instances, but there's definitely been stories about this before where you just know something's wrong and you don't act on it because you think that you're being ridiculous, and then something bad happens. So that is just, I guess, a little foreshadowing. So on the third night of her trip, Amy and her brother Brad, they were staying up late dancing at a Mardi Gras nightclub party, and they drank and danced with the club's band, Blue Orchid. Around 3:55, Brad went back to his family's cabin, which we know that exact time because of the computer lock system in the door. And Amy followed very shortly afterwards, and her dad, Ron, actually remembered waking up to the sound of Amy and her brother coming in. Amy told her dad that she hadn't been feeling too well because of the motion of the boat since they left Aruba that evening, so she was just going to stay out on their little balcony and just get some fresh air, which makes perfect sense to me. Like, I get motion sickness so badly, so, like, I know I'd be hit hard by it, and yeah, so Amy and her brother Brad, they stayed up talking on their balcony, and then Brad eventually went to bed himself. Amy fell asleep on the lounge chair outside, and at first this sounds strange, like why is she sleeping outside? But like, I just imagine this perfect summer night, waves splashing, the moon sparkling in the sky, the air is really salty, the boat's kind of like rocking you back and forth to sleep. It feels like just a perfect place to sleep on vacation in the summer. So, like I said, they were home a little bit before 4 o'clock in the morning, so this hadn't been very long. In the middle of the night, Amy's dad, Ron, woke up between 5:15 and 5:30, about an hour and a half after they got home. He saw Amy asleep on the lounge chair, and he told local papers, quote, "I could see Amy's legs from her hips down. I dozed back off to sleep. The balcony door was closed because if it hadn't been closed, I would have gotten up and closed it." Then he got up again at 6 a.m., but this time he noticed that Amy wasn't on the balcony anymore. The balcony door was open now, and her lighter and cigarettes were gone. Nothing else was taken out of her clothes, not even her sandals. So right away, her dad got up to look for her. He said that it would be weird for her to just get up without letting anyone know where she was going or where she was. And it was also very strange for her to be up that early, considering she just went to bed like 2 hours beforehand, if not less than that. So he just wanted to do a lap around the boat, see if he could catch her somewhere. And then it was very early still, so there was very few people on the boat, and it should be easy to just, spot his daughter if she was out and about. He searched all the common areas, but she wasn't there. So he started to get worried now, as any father would, and around 6:30, he went back to his cabin to let the rest of his family know that Amy was missing. And immediately, the family reported this to the crew. Obviously, time was of the essence, not just because, she's missing, but because at 7:30, the boat was scheduled to make its first stop to explore the island of Curacao. And the family pleaded with the crew, please don't let anyone get off the ship. Her mother recalls saying, I got very panicked and frightened, and I asked them, please don't put the gangplank down. You need to lock the ship up. You need to get the ship off the dock. Don't let anybody off this boat. Someone's got my daughter. And at this, I also thought it was kind of strange that right away they had jumped to like the worst possible conclusion. Yeah. But I think that this is also just kind of, they knew their daughter. That's kind of what I'm chalking it up as. They just knew her, and they were a very close-knit family. And I feel like at the very least, if someone didn't have her, they would still kind of want to know where she is before, everyone got off the boat, and then, she could be anywhere. So the crew said it was way too early to make an announcement on her disappearance or demand that 2,400 passengers and 765 crew members had to stay on board while they searched for a single person. And this makes me a little upset, and by a little I mean a lot, because I would think that safety is like your number one priority as a crew. Right. So like I don't know why you wouldn't take the time to search for that one person, even if she was just like drunk somewhere. You'd still want to make sure that she was okay. It's kind of your responsibility as the
it's
crew.
A liability thing too.
Yeah. Exactly. So that made me super mad.
It's unaccounted for.
Yeah, you just don't know where she is. It's fine. Whatever.
Yeah.
By 7:50, they let people off the boat, and at this time, most of the passengers had already disembarked onto the island. It was at this point, when most of the passengers were already gone, that the crew finally decided to make their first announcement that Amy was missing. They wouldn't make an announcement earlier or put photos of her up out of fear of scaring the other passengers. They asked over the intercom for Amy Bradley to please come to the purser's desk, but this did not ease her family's concerns because she didn't come. And they knew that if she heard the announcement, she would come to them immediately. So where was she? If she wasn't on the boat at all anymore, or if she was somewhere on board where she could hear the announcement but couldn't get to her family, those were the most likely scenarios at this point. Finally, the captain orders a search of the ship, but only the common areas. Part of this is because that's just legally what you can do. You can't. It's kind of like the same for hotels or any other, like, you can't just barge into somebody's saying. You have to have probable cause. So I understand this, but I also think that they could have searched the crews, the staff rooms, and those were not investigated. So they only searched for the common areas. No passenger rooms or staff rooms were investigated. So they searched this area from 12 to 1. Obviously, they didn't find her anywhere, and to no one's surprise, experts have cited the delay in searching for Amy and letting passengers off the ship significantly lowered their chances of finding her, which, again, I'm not shocked. After the cruise's team searched on board, the captain was very insistent on continuing their journey for the sake of the other passengers, which I can understand. Like, you don't want to cause panic. You want to make sure that the other passengers are, like, getting what they paid for, but you have a person who's unaccounted for. I don't know why that's not important to anyone. So they don't Amy's family doesn't know what to do. So because of this, they actually decide to stay on the island of Curacao to look for Amy. Again, they were pretty confident that she wasn't on board, because if she was on board, you know, she would have come to them, or if she was on board and would go back to, you know, America or whatever, they just didn't think that was really a possibility. So they thought, you know, what was most likely was for her to have been taken off the boat in this island. So they called in the Dutch Caribbean Coast Guard, and they conducted a 4-day search, which consisted of 3 helicopters and a radar plane. After this, the Royal Caribbean Cruise Line, the line that they were on, they were like, I'll charter a boat to help continue looking for her, and we're going to go on our way. So they helped a little, I guess. That was about it. So at first,
was this...
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry.
No.
Was this like before... Because I know there's like that 24 to 48 hour rule. Did they just like immediately start looking for her? Like once they realized that she was gone? Or did they kind of like brush it off at first?
So they did. And actually the 24 to 48 hour rule is not really a thing anymore. It shouldn't be a thing anymore. It's a very common misconception, because those are the most crucial hours to find someone. So I just heard of a case as recently as last year where someone was told they had to wait 72 hours before they could report someone missing.
What?
And that is absolutely insane. That's not true.
Yeah,
if someone's telling you that, don't listen to them.
Go somewhere else.
Yeah, go somewhere else, because that's not true at all. So yes, they started searching right away, which again, for me, that makes sense because they knew their daughter, and not just that, but they were in a strange place. They weren't at home. They were literally in international waters and going to a foreign country.
Right.
So the crew's first thought was that either A, Amy left on her own accord, B, committed suicide, or C, that she fell overboard and drowned. And none of these make sense. First, Amy had everything going for her. She had a brand new apartment, a brand new job. She was really excited to start as soon as they got back. She had a dog waiting for her at home. Just her whole life ahead of her. And I know that mental health can present in very different ways, but there was none of that. She was excited to start her life. She didn't even want to go on the trip because she wanted to just get ready to start her life. Not just that, but she was also so close to her friends and family. It was unusual for Amy to leave the room without telling anyone, let alone leaving her whole life behind without telling anybody. Second, I mentioned that she was a strong swimmer. She was a very strong swimmer. She was a lifeguard. And we aren't on the Titanic or on a pirate ship racing through the waves in the middle of the ocean. We are basically anchored or close to, for how close to the port they were. The shoreline was right there. The ship was like still. They were not moving anywhere. And if she would have fallen overboard, she would have absolutely been able to swim a couple pool laps worth of length in a still body of water to where the shore was, or at least to like where she can walk in the water, you know?
Yeah.
It was that close. So as her family and authorities began piecing together the night and days prior, 2 passengers actually said someone matching Amy's description was on an elevator with a lighter and cigarettes. And this makes sense. That's the only things that were missing: Amy, the lighter, and cigarettes. Her parents also mentioned that they were very strongly suspicious of the crew from the start. They remember a few odd encounters with the crew that made them uncomfortable. And on top of just, you know, their already growing animosity for the crew not listening and taking things seriously, they did have like other justifiable reasons for being wary of them. They didn't think much of these interactions. They just thought they were kind of like creepy, but now they're super suspicious. So they said immediately that they noticed that the staff showed a clear interest in Amy. There was even an encounter specifically where a waiter asked Amy for her name and told her that he and some of the crew wanted to take her to a restaurant, Carlos and Charlie's restaurant, when they docked in Aruba. Amy adamantly refused and told her dad, quote, "I wouldn't go and I wouldn't do anything with any of those crew members. They gave me the creeps."
Good.
And it was strange enough for her and her family to find it odd and unsettling in that moment, let alone looking back. They were just getting these very strange vibes from the crew and the interest that they just randomly showed in her for what seems like no reason.
And out of all the passengers, too.
Exactly.
Like, just picked her out. And we're like, yep.
Exactly.
That's the one.
Even scarier still, though, Carlos and Charlie's restaurant is the location where another young American woman was last seen in 2005, which is a couple years later, but still very coincidental. One other odd thing happened the night before Amy disappeared. Iva, Amy's mom, you know how, like, whenever you're on a cruise or even an amusement park, people are just, like, going around taking pictures for you to pay for them as, like, souvenirs?
Yeah.
Well, this is what happened. There was a cruise photographer taking pictures at dinner, and Iva wanted to just, like, go look at them and see if there was any that she was interested in buying for memorabilia. And she didn't see any of the pictures of Amy in them. And she asked the photographer, like, hey, do you remember taking a picture of, like, us with Amy? And, like, we wanted one with all of us together. And the photographer was adamant that no one bought them. And yes, he was absolutely sure they were printed. He posted them on the board. They should have been right there. But they were missing. Someone must have taken the pictures of Amy.
Oh.
Yeah, not great. So
that makes me uncomfortable.
I know, it's not good. It's gonna get worse. Just wait.
Oh no.
Other than a few more unconfirmed sightings and the odd crew member, the only other notable sighting was that Amy was seen with a band member, Alistair Douglas, who also went by Yellow. Bear with me. He played in the Blue Orchid Band, which was the band playing
colors.
In the club. Yeah, I know. He played in the Blue Orchid Band. His name is Yellow. And that was the band that was playing in the club the night she disappeared. So Yellow and Amy drank together with her brother, and they danced together. In addition to the sightings at the club, a woman also came forward and said that she saw Amy with Yellow on the deck at around 6 a.m., which is the last time that she was seen, or whenever she was noticed to be missing, rather. Mm-hmm. Yellow denied this and claimed that he left the party at 1 a.m. and had not been back or seen Amy since. That morning, when still no one but the Bradleys and the crew knew that Amy was missing, Yellow approached Amy's brother Brad and said that he felt bad for what happened to his sister. And Brad later said, that was a really odd thing to say. In that early stage of the investigation, nobody except for my family and security knew that anything might be wrong. So this was still that morning before they had made the announcement. Mm-hmm. So, like I said, Amy's family, the Bradleys, they stay on Curacao, and 5 months pass. During this time, they wrote to congressmen, foreign officials, the White House, and they didn't get any kind of response. So because of this, they hired PIs, they built a website, they started a 24-hour hotline. Nothing. They didn't get any leads. They didn't hear a single thing. So here are some theories and sightings for the most part. Authorities never found any evidence that the bass player, Yellow, was involved with Amy's disappearance. And according to the editor of a cruise line trade publication, Steve Reeves, he said, quote, "There's a rumor and legend surrounding slavery in the Southern Caribbean. It's not uncommon knowledge in the maritime community that young white women are considered to be very desirable to foreign procurers." This quote from Steve and the Bradleys' fear of their daughter being taken into human trafficking was not just random. It was not unfounded. Mm-hmm. A cab driver said that he witnessed a woman matching Amy's description, approached him, and said that she urgently needed a phone. However, the sighting was never confirmed by police, and this was still in 1998. I don't have an exact date for this, but it was very shortly thereafter this happened. In August of 1998, 5 months after Amy disappeared, a Canadian tourist said he spotted Amy on a Curacao beach with 2 men. He said Amy was constantly trying to get his attention until he lost sight of her at a nearby cafe. He said he was 2 feet from her and he noticed her tattoos, which were very distinctive. A green gecko on her torso, a Tasmanian devil with a basketball, a sun on her lower back, and a Chinese symbol on her ankle, which are exactly the distinct tattoos that Amy had. The tourist said she looked frightened, like she was about to say something when one of the guys motioned her away. He said that whenever he read about the case, he was 100% certain that it was her, especially because of the distinctive tattoos. Not just because of how she looked, but the distinctive tattoos were like what sunk it for him. In 1999, a member of the U.S. Navy reported that a woman in a brothel claimed to be Amy and asked for help. She allegedly told him that she was being held against her will, but this official did not report the incident until years later, out of fear that he would lose his ranking and his career would be ruined. And he only came forward after he retired and had no evidence to support his claim. And I don't think that no evidence means it isn't true. I just think it means that they didn't have any leads to follow up or a way to find her from this information.
Yeah.
Which is so upsetting.
That's slimy. I hate how he waited until after he was done.
I know!
Yeah, I went to a brothel and I saw this girl there.
Yeah, by the way, there was this girl who said that she was in trouble, and yeah, here you go.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
I'm sure she's fine.
Yeah.
It's all right. Just brush it off.
So fucked. So, in the fall of 1999, a man named Frank Jones contacted the Bradleys by email. At this point, Amy was in a lot of the news headlines. Her family had been adamantly searching for her ever since, and this is just a little over a year and a half later. And Frank said that he was a Navy SEAL, and he was actually a former member of the U.S. Army Special Officers, and he had a team of experienced soldiers who might be able to rescue Amy. Frank said that he and his team actually saw Amy being heavily armed by Colombian personnel in a housing complex with barbed wire. He gave a description of her tattoos on the spot and even sang the lullaby that her mom used to sing to her. He knew it, and he was able to sing it for her. Over the next few months, Frank would report to the family with news, updates, and sightings of Amy, in addition to asking for money to keep funding their operation. Finally, after months of contact and updates for the family, Frank said his team had a plan to come up with this extraction, and he was ready to execute it. So they were supposed to wait for his call after the extraction took place, and they would tell them, like, hey, we've got Amy, hey, we're safe, hey, this happened, just for an update. So that's what they did. The Bradleys waited patiently by the phone all day and all night, and the next day, and the next night, just anxiously waiting for any news. But it was a scam, the whole thing.
Oh, no.
Yeah. In total, he was given...
that's so heartbreaking.
I know. He was given over $200,000 over the course of a few months from both the Bradleys and the National Missing Children's Organization. So, like, not even just from the family, literally from an organization to help other missing children. Like, what a monster.
That's awful.
It is awful. In 2002, God. I know, it's just so bad. He was charged and convicted with mail fraud, and he was sentenced to only 5 years in prison, which I think...
What?
I know. He deserves to
From
rot
that
in
much
jail.
Money that he extorted, and
know.
He got like a slap on the wrist, essentially?
Basically, yes.
Oh, God.
Insane. Yeah.
I'm upset.
Me too. You're going to get more upset. Oh, God, no. It's not going to get better. It's almost over, but it's just
okay.
It just keeps getting worse. Ron Bradley said afterward, if there's a chance, I mean, what else do you do? If it was your child, what would you do? So I guess we took a chance, and I guess we lost. But this wasn't the last of the sightings of Amy. In 2005, a woman named Judy Maurer claimed to see Amy in a department store bathroom in Barbados with 3 men. The men left briefly so Amy could use the facilities, and the woman told Judy that she was Amy and she was from Virginia before the men came back in and led her away. Judy immediately reported this to the police and worked with them to create composite sketches of the woman and men, but this didn't produce any leads. The police searched the area right after Judy made the immediate report, and they couldn't find any trace of Amy. This same year, 2005, which is 7 years after Amy first went missing, the Bradleys came out with a very disturbing image that had been sent to them. This email came from a member of an organization who works to track victims on sites that feature sex workers. An image was sent of a woman who resembled Amy, and it did much more than just resemble. It was a dead ringer. Independent forensic experts actually agreed that the images were a perfect match for Amy. It was a sex worker known as Jazz who worked in the Caribbean, and she looked, quote, distraught and despondent. So I actually want to send you the image of Amy and the image of Jazz. And it's uncanny. Like, it is, I don't even know how to describe it. Here, I'll just send it to you in the chat.
Okay.
And they actually have a side-by-side. The picture of her with the guy in the tuxedo, that was actually taken on the cruise. That was like the last known photo of
So
Amy.
Is that yellow?
I think that's her brother, Brad.
Oh, whoops. Okay.
Yeah, I think that was her and her brother posing for like formal night on the cruise.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's her.
Yeah, like from the eyes, she has like slanted eyes, and her
like
mouth is
her
very
bone
specific. Yeah, her
structure in her
cheekbones.
face.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it is
that's
so
what gave
spot
it.
on. It is a picture of this woman. She's laying on a bed. She has like a black lace bralette on, like 80s, 90s, big hair, heavy makeup, and it's frustrating because everywhere she would have tattoos is hidden.
It's
You
covered,
can't you can't see her torso for the gecko. You can't see her back or her ankle. But it is like spot on for Amy. It is really hard to even convince yourself that it's not Amy. So they found this image. Let me try to figure out where I'm at again. So in regards to the picture of this sex worker, Amy's mom, Iva, said, when I first looked at the picture, it wasn't the Amy I know. The picture looks like a harsh and tormented Amy. But at the very least, this picture gave them hope that she was still alive somewhere. However, very tragically, there were no new leads that had been discovered from this. It was just kind of put out there, but they weren't able to track it down. I even looked and found that like the police found IP addresses and like emails from the people who had posted this, but they were all for like dead IP addresses, and like nothing was still online. The accounts they couldn't track them down at all. So in Aruba, in 2012, a jawbone was washed ashore on a beach. And originally, it was thought to be that of the other missing girl I had mentioned, who was last seen at Carlos and Charlie's restaurant, Natalie Holloway. The jawbone was cleared from being Natalie's, but despite 9 other vacationers said to be missing, authorities refused to do any additional testing for DNA. The bone is confirmed to be human, and it's confirmed to be of Caucasian origin, but they won't do any DNA testing still to see if it's Amy's or any of the other missing vacationers. They just won't.
Why?
I have no idea.
It's probably just to keep everything, because they want to keep people coming on these cruises.
Exactly.
Like
if there's like a big scandal,
Yeah.
It's good for tourism.
God. That sucks, man.
Yeah. Almost done. On March 21st. Nope. On March 24th, 2010, which is 12 years after her disappearance, her family had Amy Lynn Bradley officially legally declared dead. There have been no verified witnesses and no remains found. Currently, the case is still open, and the FBI is offering up a $25,000 reward for any information that could lead to a closure of this case. And additionally, the Bradley family is still offering $50,000 for information regarding her location and $250,000 for information that leads to her safe return. Brad, Amy's brother, said, quote, myself and my parents have had to endure a lot of sadness, but the last thing that I have ever... Brad, Amy's brother said, myself and my parents have had to endure a lot of sadness, but the last thing I ever said to Amy was, I love you, before I went to sleep that night. Knowing that that's the last thing I said to her has always been very comforting to me. And that's the story of Amy Bradley. And like I said, this has always haunted me, but what really sparked it into my mind of recent was that while we don't have any news of Amy in the recent years, I saw a breaking, like as of last week, breaking news story. It was an article on the long history of sexual assault on cruise ships, and I was surprised that it was a breaking news story because it wasn't a shock to me. A cruise ship is the perfect place for a crime to be committed. Not only do you have ample opportunities to get off the ship and stay off the ship, but legal jurisdiction also gets really muddied in international waters. And just that delay in and of itself can delay investigations so much. Carnival and Royal Caribbean, which is the cruise line Amy and her family were on, had the most reported sexual assaults since 2010. And Princess Cruise was recently sued by a passenger who alleges that she was raped by a crew member. And sexual assaults are the most prevalent crime reported on cruise ships. But deeper than this, sexual assaults aside, for all these reasons and more, cruises are really the perfect location for sex trafficking victims to be farmed, essentially.
Yeah.
And now I'm terrified of cruises. And
yeah, honestly, geez, I guess I never even really thought about that. But that,
you
like,
wouldn't.
the jurisdiction alone makes so much sense because obviously you're going to be traveling to places like Aruba or what was the name of the island again?
Curacao.
Yeah, so, man, that's like they can't even perform any kind of like thorough investigation off.
Obviously, like if
US
you're an American
soil.
citizen, like the American government can get involved, but only to a certain extent. Like it's not their jurisdiction to lead an investigation in another country.
My thing though is like, so when they took this picture of Amy, obviously it was like her captors essentially. Like they made it so that her tattoos were covered, but why risk it? Like why risk taking a picture and did they, like, how was it published? Like, how was it found?
It was found on a sex worker website. So this is kind of, the organization is kind of, it's basically an organization that looks for, like, child pornography victims or sex trafficking victims. And they do, like, the hard, dirty work and try to find these really awful pornographic sites where these people might be on, and especially in like foreign countries. And you know, they try to match them up with missing persons and things like that.
Jeez.
Yeah. So this was kind of like a picture just advertising for this sex worker or showing like who you could get on this website.
Gotcha. Okay.
And it was just a dead ringer for Amy.
Yeah. That's clear as day, honestly.
Yeah.
Damn it, Madison.
That's upsetting. I'm sorry to bring the party down. I'm so sorry.
No, you're fine. So I've also had a fear of the ocean when I was very little.
Yeah.
For completely different reasons, but it's so weird that you bring that up because I have been on a cruise before, and obviously, like, my experience with it was perfectly fine and normal, and that's what most people would think.
Yeah.
And I feel like you don't really think about the possible dangers.
You don't.
And
you're on a cruise, like it's advertised.
You're there to have fun, like
place.
everything.
They have so many activities. It's all inclusive. You get to travel without actually traveling. Like it's, you know.
And the fact that you're there with that sheer amount of people.
Yes.
I feel like it's kind of like a what's it called? Like a herd mentality where you feel like nothing can touch you.
Yes, exactly. When really that's
you're surrounded like that, but
best place to be taken if you were
snatched.
And I'm not trying to make it out to seem like all cruises are bad or all cruise workers are bad, but if you were in this business, being a cruise crew worker would be the best place to do it. You could easily hide people in your cabin or smuggle them off the ship on an island somewhere. You know all the people, have all the connections. Just, yeah.
So do you think, like, the crew was in on it? Like, they worked with these with this organization that were set up on this island or other islands? Like, do you think they were in on it, or do you think that they were kind of oblivious and just wanted to get everyone along with the rest of the ride, I guess?
Personally, I think that they wanted to actually just get everyone along with the rest of the ride. I don't think the captain was in on it, and I think they really did just want to like not startle anybody. Yeah. But I 100% think that some crew members were in on this. I think that somebody on that ship who, you know, had connections. I mean, even the waiter, even just knowing that waiter knows intimately like the names of these restaurants and wants to take somebody there, or mention wanting to take somebody there, that's proof that they at least know the islands a little bit. So
they want to get them away from everybody else.
Exactly. So I mean, if you know the islands enough to know restaurants, you know the islands enough to know anybody.
I guess the other thing too is that for this kind of employment, like for people on the ship who work there, that's not something that you really vet for that much. Like, you're not going to go through extensive background checks.
Not at all. And there's such a wide variety of like people who do work on them. You have people from chefs to performers to janitorial staff to people who work in like the best restaurants to people who work at like the movie theater. Like, it's just it's a job. You don't need to have a college degree to be a stewardess or, you know, do anything on a cruise. Yeah. Not that
that's scary.
Having a college degree would make you a good person. That was just, you know what I mean. You know.
Yeah, I gotcha.
Cool.
Dang.
But yeah, sorry to bum you out. I apologize.
Oh, you should be. That's so upsetting.
I feel bad.
No, it's. I mean, I listened to. I think I listened to the most recent 2 episodes.
Oh yeah, the last one was rough.
But no, like I assumed, because I'd never really dived too much into true crime, and I mean, it's interesting. Like, I get the interest. Like, I understand like why, because a lot of these things don't go solved. Like this case, and it's like, and that's it's frustrating kind of that there's no closure for the family, and it's like,
and that's really what gets me most of all. Like, there is no closure, and like, especially in this case, I feel like we were so close at one point. We had sightings. I mean, how many people have a Tasmanian devil tattoo and a sun and a gecko on them?
The tourist guy who saw her that one time, I was like, he's got to report something, right?
Yes.
And they're gonna find her and bring her home, but no.
But yeah. Thank you all for listening this week. Super excited to have you on, Jarod. Thank you for joining this with me. You did great. Give Jarod some love, everybody. If you want to find more of us, you can follow us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter at MECrisisPod. You can send me an email at myexistentialcrisispodcast@gmail.com. It's a mouthful. And yeah, I think that's about it. Like and subscribe.
I think so.
That's all I've got.
Like and subscribe. Thanks for having me again. That was a lot of fun.
Thanks for coming, Jarod.
Yeah.
Bye, guys.
See ya.